we go.
I didn't know we were meeting this morning. I thought it was all video.
Okay. Can everyone hear us on Zoom?
Yes,
Yes.
good morning,
Yes.
everyone.
Yes.
I can't hear you guys.
I didn't know we were meeting this morning at the hall. I thought it was all Zoom.
I did, but it's snowing outside, so I
Oh,
decided to stay home.
I agree, Davis. I did the same thing.
Please don't tell me it's snowing.
Oh, there's 3 inches here, Norma.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. All right, we're here, everyone.
Enjoy your weather.
here you go, Norma.
Been there a little bit late this
I'll
morning.
stay here for a little longer.
Give it 2 days. It's going to be 80 degrees.
Okay.
All right, we have a quorum here, so I'm going to get started with our April 21st, 2001 Hamburg IDA meeting. We'll start with roll call. Just looking to see, Janet should be in momentarily, so just keep an eye out for her. So Cam Hall. Here. Bob Hutchison. Here. Janet's not here yet. Thomas Moses. Here. Chairman Palmer. Here. Davis Podkolsky.
Here,
Thank you. Robert Reynolds.
Here.
Norma Russell Kelly.
Here.
And Wentz isn't online and Janet's coming in now. And Janet, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, Janet's here. We're just getting started. Okay, start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag,
Flag of the
United States of America,
to the republic,
to
and
the
to the
republic for which
republic
it stands,
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
visible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you. Does everyone have a copy of the agenda? Did you get a copy, Kevin? Okay. A motion to open the Board of Directors meeting at 7:35 a.m. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting is open. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this morning. Thank you to our guest, Kevin McAuliffe, traveled in, representing Erie Wind. And the first item on the agenda are the meeting minutes from the March 17th, 2021 Board of Directors meeting. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Move to pass.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
second.
Reynolds. Thank you, Norma. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the financial report for March 31st, 2021. Mr. Reynolds, please.
Good morning, everyone. The financial report should be in front of you. Obviously, we had very little revenue this month that was reported out at $136.46. Our biggest expense was our payroll, $15,312.78. So we had a monthly loss of $18,498.02. So that brought our total for the agency to $610,959.76. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Can I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll approve.
Thank you. Was that Norma?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Financial report is carried. Thank you. Director report. Just an update. We're still working towards the open projects here and the closings. We have E1 that we're carrying, 290 Lake Street, which is on the agenda for today. KH Industries, which we're working through as a sales tax project, and then Bayview Road Associates. Most recent update from Bayview Road, Jennifer has been working hard on the project agent agreement. We should expect that to be signed off I'm hoping any day. Typically, the meetings are on Fridays. So we usually expect document flow on Fridays. Construction at the site, they've begun to mobilize out there. So we expect construction to start really any day. And they'll be looking for to start taking advantage of the sales tax. So, they'll be looking for those documents. So that should be moving forward. I'd like to thank Mary, who did a lot of hard work. February and March are the crunch months for the annual reporting. Those are due within the first 90 days and of the end of the calendar year. So Paris is complete for both the IDA and the land corporation. That's the public authorities accounting reporting system. So that goes to the authority budget office and the state controller. Our 2020 audit is complete. We have an audit committee meeting today to review the audit. And we look forward to going on into 2021. On the business development side, it's very exciting. It's been a long time since the Hamburg Development Corporation provided any small business loans. We were able to, in terms of that organization, companies were more so taking advantage of the EDIL loans, the PPP loans. Those programs were more, I would say, lucrative to the general public, but a few amount of companies, based on when they went into business, did not qualify. One of those was this company, Moto Village, which operates on Pleasant Avenue in Hamburg. They opened, I think it was in June of last year during the pandemic. So they were in a cash crunch. The business is seasonal by nature as well. So we were able to boost them. It was approximately a $50,000 loan. And with that, they'll add 2 full-time employees over the next 2 years of their operation and continue to employ an existing 4. They provide electric vehicles. They are more so in the form of motorcycles, the side-by-sides, kind of the recreational vehicles that you see people using, and they have a good start to their business, and we're looking forward to supporting them. The acquisition on Jeffrey Boulevard of the former Norfolk Southern site is another one that's a highlight. Their application, they submitted a draft application, Jennifer, and I was able to answer questions and provide some guidance to that end. And certainly at a point where it's appropriate, I'll get it in front of you, but I don't think they were there at this point. Continuing on, I did organize a meeting with Senator Ed Rath. We were talking in previous meetings about some proposed legislation and that would impact the local IDAs within Erie County. Senator Rath is on the local governments committee for the New York State Senate. And he essentially, any bills, proposed Senate bills that would impact IDAs are presented to his committee. So it was important to meet with him and to understand the nature of some of these bills that's proposed and what they're actually looking to accomplish with these proposed bills, and talk about exactly what the Hamburg IDA does and some of the local IDA does, and how that bill, as it's proposed, would be counterproductive to the development opportunities that are presented through the Hamburg IDA. So that was a very positive meeting, and we look forward, as Senator Rath is new in the Senate role. It was actually his first in-person meeting that he has had with anyone as a state senator. So that was interesting, but we look forward to maintaining relationships with him and for his support, continued support in our region. Pitch Hamburg has an interesting update. Last couple of meetings, we've been talking about the legal arrangements and the certification as a not-for-profit. Pitch Hamburg is basically an incubator type project, a startup business incubator that will be specifically in Hamburg. And we've continued on into a fundraising stage. So we have a couple initiatives going at this time We've really extended out to the board. So our formal/informal board of directors, we have both, almost like an advisory board. So we've begun fundraising within our own board to cultivate some internal support and financial resources so that we can engage essentially a contracted fundraising professional to go out and actively seek funds to perform grant writing activities for the organization. In addition to that, we'll be talking in the couple months about a operation that we have, which is called the Mentor Deck. And essentially it's a virtual platform where you'll be able to book business professionals. You'll be able to book out time for business professionals in the Hamburg community that as a startup or an entrepreneur, these people may be able to help you with certain skill sets that they have and their subject matter expertise that could boost your business. So they'll be able to go to this mentor deck, go through essentially a view of business professionals and understand what they do. Patent law would be one item, business formation, financing your business would be another one, and you can book out these people's time at no cost. They're donating their time to then support businesses in the community. So at this point, again, with limited resources, it's a very grassroots type of operation, but we've actually been able to work with the software developer who is donating this platform for us to use, which is typically a cost of about $2,500 per year. So that's some of the support that we're starting to gain traction and provide services, which then will allow us to show funding sources, you know, that we're actually forming some services in the community. So that's exciting. Beyond that, we did have the, you know, it's interesting, and people in your own business community, you might see that some of the meetings are switching back from virtual to in person. We had the committee, the real estate, commercial real estate professionals, they're flipping back to more of a hybrid situation, but that's exciting as projects are moving forward. And I had mentioned a little bit earlier, as we were getting going, the public hearing was held for the two public hearings actually were held this past month. One for the Shoreline Trail, which will be extending in from to Woodlawn from Dona Street in Lackawanna. Information regarding that has been presented by Labella and the ECIDA. I believe materials are available on the ECIDA website. There's three prospective paths that are being proposed. So if you'd like to view them or comment, you could go to the ECIDA website or contact me and I can provide you the links. And also the Town of Hamburg Comprehensive Plan Committee had their first public meeting last night. I felt it was a fairly successful meeting. The comments were fairly free flowing, even though it was held virtually, but I felt that it was a good exchange and a good step forward for that plan.
Sean, just to let the board know, I did speak at that meeting yesterday on our Immaculata project, as well as our Amazon project, just because they brought it up, our revitalization of the Immaculata. So I did make a little comment so the board knows.
Any other comments? I don't know, were you on it, Bob Hutchison?
I heard Bob's comment. Good.
Yeah, and you'll see, I think, you know, I'll make it a point to be sure that it's distributed to the board once complete. But a couple of the highlights were certainly revitalization in terms of reuse, which is something that we've been talking about since I've been involved with the agency and probably even before me. And also Parks and Recreation were another one. You know, multifamily, as you're aware, has always been a concern as well. But I would say the adaptive reuse and Parks and Recreation were probably the two primary items that had piqued public interest in terms of Parks and Recreation enhancement and preservation and reuse of existing
There was
buildings.
some comments about overdevelopment, some fear of overdevelopment.
Yeah, there was talk about, like turning into transit road and traffic accommodations and congestion. So, like I said, we'll see as this kind of formulates from here and begins to mold and understand the path. And we would love to, work in coordination with that, not only for the town, but for the region as well. Some other meetings, we've reconnected kind of towards hopefully the end of the pandemic with National Fuel and NYSEG as well. The local utilities provide a lot of financial and development support from an industrial and a commercial perspective. So I've been talking with them regarding some of our own projects and regarding projects from other developers.
Hey, Sean,
Yes, sir.
did you ask the bank how the new building is?
No, I didn't talk about the new building. Meeting with commercial lenders is certainly out there. It'll be interesting to see how the office buildings are utilized from this point forward, and the need and demand on office space as it stands. So that's something that I'm paying attention to. And the last item that I'm paying attention to that is directly impacting projects in the town of Hamburg and regionally is certainly the cost of lumber and the cost of raw materials. So I have had conversations with two specific projects that are on hold right now. One's on the agenda due to the spike in raw materials. One hasn't come to the IDA and is waiting for prices to moderate. Another one is going to be seeking an extension as carried on our agenda today due to the cost of raw materials. Perspective wise, for the end user, the purchaser, a year ago in March 2020, the kind of commodity price for lumber is a price per 1,000 board feet in raw material status. It was $384. Presented as it stands about April 2021, the cost for the same amount of lumber is $1,032. So it's represented a dramatic increase in the production costs. And it's important to note that as these projects seek financing, even though the costs are more substantial, the valuation of these real properties does not increase proportionally. So you're getting the same amount of loan that you would get even though the costs are going up, which is, requiring these developers to take and, invest more money out of pocket if they have it, or seek additional financing from private sources to make these developments happen. So it certainly proposes a struggle. Correct. So it's certainly dragging down development. On the brighter side, it appears as though, the costs have peaked. So costs are beginning to come down. I've talked to local commercial constructors, and they, have said that, the cost will moderate as supply and production and distribution increase. And maybe demand, slows down a little bit at this time because of the high cost. Any questions, comments?
One
Yes,
thing
sir.
about the office space, Sean, you may see some of the stuff I've been reading, showing the office, or the office space is going to change. Maybe more space per person, like instead of having 150 square feet per person, we have 200 or 250. So, office may be something that we want to look at kind of going forward, that we really haven't, had in the end, but we may have some demand.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, as I was in that world of commercial real estate for large companies, it was about, how can we, cut down the square footage. We had ratios of people per square foot, and it was all about, bringing that down, and we would have, 40 square foot spaces, 6 by 6 cubes, roughly 36 feet, where you put people in. And I think that, maybe increase dividers you will see more, where before it was more of an open office floor plan, more square foot per person. And then I think the other thing which could benefit Hamburg, because we have a lot more, our offices are much more small. When we surveyed this a couple of years ago, we're in like the 2,000 to 3,000 square feet range of offices. And I think you might look at companies that have more so, even a local company might have more regional outposts of these, smaller square feet offices, huddle areas where they can, if they have people deployed working remotely from home, they can bring them in for training, for coaching, for meetings from time to time in smaller settings. So that could certainly provide some upside. And certainly regionally, there's an uptick in co-working space. So we have one going on the lake side here in Hamburg, but there's a number of co-working areas, and I think they're doing fairly well. I think that's something to pay attention to, something that I would look forward to as these places start to become more busy and more productive in the next couple of years. We would even participate in some fashion of co-working, because that's often where these companies are being developed. So it would make sense that we are working with these companies from their genesis as we're deployed in the co-working space as well, and we can help them to grow. Any other comments, questions? Okay, back to continuing on with our agenda. We do have our sexual harassment training, which is an annual requirement. So please continue to work towards that if you have time, or you have it provided through your employer or through some other board or organization. If you send Mary the certification that it's completed, we'll check that box. And then the next item on the agenda are the bylaws. So in our previous meeting, we proposed some changes to the bylaws where we are providing some specific and more organized public comment. So I'm going to go through a resolution now, and then we can potentially open it up to questions regarding the modification. Resolution of the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency to adopt updated bylaws. Whereas by the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency has reviewed its bylaws, would like to amend the same to adjust its meeting agenda to allow for greater public participation at its meetings. Now therefore be it resolved as follows, that the HIDA hereby adopts the attached amended bylaws. The HIDA secretary is hereby directed to promptly provide the new bylaws to all board members and employees, and to post the same on the official website, and this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Motion for support.
Thank you.
Second by Janet
Second.
Farr.
Thank you, Janet. And I'm going to do a roll call vote on this, please, just because it's with our bylaws. So I'll start on Zoom. So Norma,
Approved.
thank you. Davis,
Yes.
thank you. Bob Hutchison,
Aye.
Mayor Moses,
Aye.
Andy Palmer,
Aye.
Cam Hall,
Aye.
thank you. Any
Janet
opposed?
Farr. Aye.
Oh, Janet, sorry, I had you as in a second. Motion
That
carried.
doesn't mean we have to vote for it, I too.
Mhm.
Okay, Bob Reynolds, thank you.
Right, Janet?
Okay, next item, it is in your meeting packet, and I would like you to review it. You can offer comment, and we'll put it to a vote in our next meeting, and that is a records retention policy as recommended by the Authority Budget Office. So Jennifer had drafted a potential added policy to the Hamburg IDA, and that would transpose to the Land Development Corp for records retention. I don't know if anyone has any questions at this time, but we'll put it on the agenda for next month and dive deeper into that one.
Can I ask one question on this big paperwork we got from the state? The authority's budget office policy guidance. Now, obviously, we're trying to follow everything in this guidance. Do they, when we do our audits and stuff like that, I know we do a financial audits, but does the state come in and take a look at our website for like the list of active projects, and they want the budgets for the last 2 years? There's a bunch of stuff that I was highlighting in here. Do we have to prove that to the state, or is that just something they recommend?
No,
If they come in,
go ahead.
sorry, John. If they come in, if the state comes in and does an audit, they will be looking specifically for these items.
Okay,
And if you haven't applied, will be written up for not doing those. And of course, we have a chance to respond to audits.
right. So Sean, going over that whole list, and it's pretty extensive of our requirements, and I'm assuming most of it has to be on the website, saved and stuff like that. And I went through the website a lot, but do we audit to make sure that we made all these items are on here? Our own website?
Internal, and then also Jennifer has gone through, like Jennifer went through in January and posted
Okay.
recommendations of things that were not up there.
Okay, so we do like a part of our process is a yearly audit of this budget requirement. I mean, it's extensive and it's a lot of time and energy. And I guess they like to put time and energy and make our costs go up. But I just want to make sure that they don't come back and try to come, with all the battles we're having out here on the IDAs and stuff like that. Because like I said, there's some stuff in here that, post a list of real property owners by the authority. All that stuff is supposed to be out there in the public, I guess. And I just want to make sure that it's part of our focus in our yearly review of management.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and the links are also provided in the authority reporting system as well. So for
Okay.
certain things, for some of the key items like bylaws, we have to post the hard links into the reporting system. But yeah, this is something that we perform an internal review of, and then we also have potential to be audited either by the authority budget office or the state controller, or even the IRS, more so specifically for the audit at any time.
Okay. All right. No, I'm good. Thank you for answering my question.
Mhm. Okay, so we talked to the audits and the Paris reporting. The next item on the agenda is the Oaks at South Park. So they have communicated a request for a third extension. So I do have a resolution here that I will highlight. This would be a resolution of the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency to extend the inducement period and the sales tax period for the Oaks at South Park until October 21st, 2021. Whereas the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency, by resolution adopted on June 25th, 2019, induced the Oaks at South Park with the proceeds of a lease with mortgage for the acquisition by the lessee of an approximately 27-acre parcel of land. And this is located at 5138 South Park in the Town of Hamburg. This is the adaptive reuse of a former school building and the redevelopment of a parcel of land for construction of 19 two-story buildings, totaling 152 housing units, installation of baseball and softball fields and other amenities, and the acquisition and installation of machinery, equipment, furnishings, and fixtures by the lessee. Whereas due to COVID-19 pandemic and the mandated construction shutdown, supply chain delays as a result of border closing and supply demands, the lessee has been unable to complete the project within the time frame that was originally anticipated and has requested and received an extension from June 26, 2020 to March 26, 2021. For reasons above, an additional extension from April 21st, 2021 through October 21st, 2021 is now requested. Whereas the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency approved a temporary policy to waive extension fees for project extensions for COVID-19 pandemic related delays on May 26, 2020 to lessen the economic burden of induced project delays related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now therefore be it resolved by the agency as follows. The agency does hereby extend the inducement period and the sales tax period for the lessee from today until October 21st, 2021 and waives the extension fee. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Also move. Second.
Moved by Chairman Palmer, seconded by Bob Hutchison. Any questions?
Yeah, on the question, is there a point at which this becomes burdensome for us? I mean, what's the cost to our association to extend this?
We have in our combined fee schedule, I think it's 0.25%, so 1/4 of the agency fee. And is it, Jennifer, for a 6-month extension?
Correct, 6 months.
For a 6-month extension. So, as it related last year, we waived a total of fees of about $70,000. It's, I would be more inclined to encourage the board to assess extension fees if the project was not being productive. So, there's that site is very active. It's an active construction site and progress is moving forward. Certainly, as we had mentioned earlier, they're being hit with unforeseen added costs. And they seem to be managing that internally. So with that, I would be inclined, as it maintains active and as we're in the current economic situation, to be supportive of the resolution.
Yeah, my question was more like, what's the skin off our back to extend?
Certainly,
Very little.
Really, there's reporting fees for the sales tax, or time for us to report the sales tax exemptions. It's not really involving any of your added time, Jennifer, at this point, right? Other than the extension coordination.
Right, rather than writing the resolution, which as you can see is pretty pro forma and easy to do.
Yeah, so the fees are meant to drive the project forward, to kind of penalize it. So
Right.
due to the current
Prevent people from sitting
situation.
on it.
Exactly.
All
Exactly.
right, I'm
On the question for me, here, why I'm so much in support of that, I appreciate the question, Ken. It's a very good question. We don't want to just extend these things endlessly. But I'm in the construction world and for pieces of equipment that people order now, they're waiting a year. And these are hundreds of thousands of dollars pieces of equipment. And so it's not like it's a home people order. So I'm more on the understanding that, especially lumber costs, and all those houses over there are stiff. So I'm assuming they absorbed all that extra cost. Unless somehow they locked down that lumber price. I'd be surprised if they did. So why I'm so much in support of it, I think it's something that we should look at, obviously project by project. But it's an unusual time right now, and as long as we're wearing masks, COVID still has an impact on construction.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Can I have I'll do a roll call vote here. Norma,
Aye.
thank you. Bob Reynolds,
Aye.
Davis, please.
Yes.
Janet,
Aye.
thank you. Bob Hutchison.
Aye.
Mayor Moses. Chairman Palmer.
Aye.
Cam Hall.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is a extension resolution for 290 Lake Street Holdings. This project is for the construction of an approximately 19,260 square foot mixed-use infill development on a former vehicle repair facility. It's for 10 market rate apartments and roughly 6,400 square feet of speculative professional office and retail space in the village of Hamburg. The town of Hamburg IDA adopted a resolution on July 28, 2021 that induced this 290 Lake Street Holdings LLC project. And whereas due to the COVID-19 pandemic, mandated construction shutdown and supply chain delays, the project has originally anticipated and had requested and received an extension from today until October 22nd, 2021. Whereas the Town of Hamburg IDA has approved a temporary policy to waive these extension fees on May 26, 2020. Now therefore be it resolved by the agency as followed. The agency does hereby extend the inducement period to allow additional time to close on this project from today until October 21st, 2021, and waives the extension fee. This resolution shall take effect immediately. So as it relates to this project, there was some communication from the developer, as with the Oaks, but this had specifically talked to some of the specific costs related to the lumber. So I hope you had a chance to review that. And do you want to move this, Bob?
Well, I have a question. So if somebody wants to move it, go ahead and move it. But I have a question.
I'll make a
comment.
motion to move.
I'll second it.
Norma and Janet. Okay, on the question, Ms. Reynolds.
Yes, I have no problem moving this for 6 months forward, but I think this is one of the cases that Cam pointed out. I think that there should be an understanding that if they don't have their financing set up in 6 months, if they want to move it forward, we start charging fees going forward for the extension. I think they need an understanding because there's no project work at all going on this. It's all based on finance. And I understand that everything's going on, but from 6 months from now, if they still don't have their finance and they want another extension, they should have to pay the fees to get an extension. Because again, like Andy said, this project we need to see movement, and I think they need to understand that too. So I don't know if we could add that or if that's a personal conversation, Jennifer, but to understand that in 6 months from now, if they do come back to the board and there's no movement on this project, the extension fees will not be waived.
I think when we send the resolution out to be signed by the company, that email would be the best place to say that, this is it.
Okay. I just, it's up to the, obviously if the board agrees,
Right.
I'm just making that observation or proposal.
Any other? Cam and Mayor Moses agreed with you if you didn't hear them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that, what Bob said too. And the overall sentiment of, if these projects are moving, and it's just because of the impact of COVID, that's understandable, but we want some movement. I think that overall principle makes sense.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we'll reflect that in the minutes, and I'll work with Jennifer on if this motion is approved, on the communication with the resolution with the developer. Okay. Norma, in favor or opposed?
In favor.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. Davis, please.
Yes.
Janet Plar?
Aye.
Bob Hutchison?
Aye.
Mayor Moses?
Aye.
Chairman Palmer?
Aye.
Cam Hall?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is Erie Wind, a request for a deviation from the local labor policy. We have Kevin McCullough here presenting the project. I'll read through a waiver or the motion for the waiver, and then we'll go on to questions for the board. This is a motion to approve a waiver from the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency local labor policy relative to the construction and installation of wind turbines associated with the Erie Wind LLC and Huron Holdings LLC project. That GE Renewable Energy requires approved contractors to either be GE personnel or vendors approved by GE. The agency will waive the local labor requirement to allow for the warranty exception to apply with contract requirements between Erie Wind LLC, Huron Holdings LLC, and GE Renewable Energy. All other aspects of the construction and operation will comply within the terms of the policy. So moved, yes, please.
I'll second.
Cam, thank you. Davis, thank you.
What can, it's Kevin's there right now, right?
Kevin is here right now.
Kevin, can you explain to this board and to the community this whole GE policy, what it's about? For your warranty? Can you hear me? Can you hear me all right?
I can, yes, certainly. And I should say that while we've captioned this as a warranty issue, there's really also just a lack of approved people in this district. I mean, first of all, you have to be the certifications, you have to be certified to work in a energized wind turbine tower. There's a certification for that. You have to be certified to construct these things. And then you have to be someone, if you are a subcontractor, who's an approved GE vendor. GE tells me that there are none in the area, which quite frankly does not surprise me when I look at the classifications of the people that are going to put these things together. There are, notwithstanding the fact that we've asked for what I'll refer to as a blanket waiver rather than sub by sub, there are some jobs that they hope will be filled locally. There may be 4 laborers, people who literally will work on the ground that do not need to go inside the tower, do not need to be electrically certified to work there. So their hope that be 4 laborers. And I should start off and say, at the moment, on the entire Steel Winds project, and obviously from GE's perspective, there's no breakout by jurisdiction between Lackawanna and Hamburg. They anticipate there'll be 74 people working on this in all different categories. The other thing that we still hope will be hired locally, and GE will make every attempt to, will be the 5 crane operators that they need. They will go to the local hall. Now, pursuant to our pre-meeting discussion, we have no idea, even when they go to the local hall, if they're going to find 5 crane operators. It's entirely possible that the crane operators that the hall provides to us will be traveling crane operators. They may not be people who live in this economic region, but that's the outreach in an attempt to hire those particular people. But aside from those limited people, which is really 9 at best out of 74 that we hope to hire locally, all the rest of them have to be pre-approved by GE. And obviously what that means is they have to have taken these courses in how to assemble, disassemble, and then reassemble these turbines using these GE components. So, we've got the physical aspect of an aspect that we didn't understand even when I was here for all those meetings that we had. You will actually see as this occurs, they're going to take down the first couple of sections of each tower, not replace them, but they're going to put in a new safety system, which is in quotes, the GE Climb Assist facility inside the tower to enhance the safety for the workers that have to go up and down inside the tower. And then those tower sections go back up. They put on the adapter plate, and then they place the new nacelle on it. The thing that's really the size of a tractor trailer, even though it doesn't look like that from the ground. Rotors, blades, etc. All that is being changed out. All these workers obviously have to be either GE people or GE approved vendors. Aside from the crane operators and the laborers, there's no one on this list of 74 that doesn't have to be pre-approved as a wind tech. And obviously, it's the most specialized thing we can find out there. I mean, they're just not around. So even though we captioned the letter to you as warranty, and it really is a warranty issue, because obviously, if we don't do everything under this contract and hire those people that GE provides, I mean, they really provide them. This is an all-encompassing contract. We don't get the warranty. It's very simple. It's like saying, can I have that piece of heavy construction equipment, but I'm going to take it down to the foreign auto parts place, replace the muffler and the oil and everything else. It doesn't work that way.
I just have to clarify the question.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Does our local labor policy not already accommodate for scarcity of resources and allowing for
It,
deviations because of that?
we do, but the project operator, correct me if I'm wrong, Judge, but the project operator needs to come back to communicate that.
Correct. A waiver has to be requested from the board. It's not automatic.
Gotcha.
This, in all my decades of doing this work, this is really the very first project where I've asked for a blanket waiver. I've come back on lots of different types of construction projects and said, well, the foundation, they're going to use a special type of material. There are only 2 or 3 contractors in the country that are certified to do it. Or this type of HVAC system, maybe some new thing, and there's only 2 or 3 approved contractors that can put it in. Ordinarily, I'm back in front of the board after construction has commenced, identifying some component piece of a project which needs either a specialized manufacturer and associated with that specialized a pre-approved installer. This is such of a one-off in a sense. It's not often that we're doing something that this technical. And there's only 2 or 3 companies in the country that even supply this stuff again. You know, it's much more to some of your earlier discussions, some piece of an office building, some piece of a manufacturing plant, something like that. Not a blanket situation where the whole product itself is specialized.
Sean, if I may,
Yes, Janet. Oh, question.
is this, first off, this would go over under our previous local labor policy because this project was adopted prior to our adopting our new labor policy? Yes, no, maybe?
Correct. That is the local labor policy. When we close, the old policy wasn't in effect, and that's what was signed and agreed to with this project. So you are
So-
correct. Dan.
Should this waiver perhaps have been presented prior to our adoption of the incentive?
I don't think it was known about and that it would be needed officially until now, but Kevin can answer that.
I think it's a great question, but if I were in your shoes, I would consider a request for a labor waiver prior to even closing premature. Because, for example, in this GE contract, like most other contracts, incorporated the requirement that they go out and find local labor when available. I certainly didn't know, and I don't know that any of us knew at the time we were in front of you, because we were still going back and forth between Vestas and GE equipment, that number one, we would definitely choose GE. It may have not been until our last meeting we knew it was GE. And number two, I don't think that anybody goes out at that point in time and says, are there any subcontractors in this area that are pre-approved as Wintex that could put any of this up? So I think it would have been premature for us to come to you and say, we can only construct this project with an absolute waiver.
Mr. Doyle, I will be voting no on this unless I can't give a blanket waiver to anyone. I think it needs to be very specific in any language, what can be waived and what cannot. There's obviously some laborers and crane operators and things that can be hired out locally. Giving a blanket, I think we need to be specific what they can go outside and what they need to stay inside the region for.
We have a resolution.
Can I get,
We do have, it's been moved.
Question.
Yeah, we're on the question.
so I still have another question for Kevin too. So GE is this the first time GE's coming into our area with all the windmills we have up in Warsaw and all around? And because we have school board members on here, and if this is something our school should take a look at for technical training and stuff in our area, because we have a lot of windmills in this area now, and they're talking about more windmills. So I'm kind of like with Janet, a blanket one means everything. I'd like to know specifically. So if I'm going to deal with labor and say, look at, we need training in certification of electricians on windmills. The same as you're going to need with electric cars. You got to have certification to work on an electric car. So how do I, if I could get that information, I could take it back to the labor group and say, hey guys, we had to give away 50 jobs, but these are the jobs we had to give away. How do we get people certified in this area to use them as a resource? I understand exactly where Janet's coming from, and I agree with Janet. It's very tough to give a blanket one.
I understand, and I don't disagree with the concept. We represent, among other IDAs, our firm does, the Onondaga County IDA, and up until recently, the Jefferson County IDA, and both of them in the context of solar, not wind, because we don't really have wind projects in Central New York at the moment. I have asked the same thing, and what we did in both cases was identify the lack of training of solar installers or electricians that didn't have the requisite skill sets to do the solar installation, and worked with a couple of different community colleges to create those programs. I'd be glad to provide to Sean the complete list of people from the GE enumeration. I don't know at the outset that just the names will be helpful, but I will certainly endeavor to then identify how one gets approved as a tower wire tech or high voltage technician, et cetera, a repower technician approved by GE. At the moment, I do not have any idea how one undertakes that, but certainly in the size of this economic development region, it would make sense that people had courses available to provide that certification and or identify existing companies that are close to this type of work. For example, we use O'Connell Electric, which is all over New York, for some things. And I checked, and O'Connell Electric does not have people that do the work on the tops of these facilities. So I was a little surprised at that myself. That was my personal outreach through some of the Terraform people, not the GE people, to identify whether or not there weren't existing contractors in the area that did this work, and I came up with a 0.
And I'm not disagreeing with you either, Kevin, because I know there's a specialized field out there for all work. I'm a mechanic by trade. All right. So I'm a mechanic at Ford by trade. And we had specialized guys that would go in there with certifications that the company gave them to go in there to do stuff. I just think because we have such a wide area out there, Wyoming County, Genesee, all our Orleans County, that we need to at least address this issue before us. Because in the future, I see more windmills coming in and more solar and stuff like this. It's something that we need to bring before the public, and the IDA is a perfect place to bring it up. So I agree with Janet. To give a blanket one doesn't do us any good. But if it's specific, okay, these are the techs that I need to come in because I can't find them, at least the public now knows, and the IDA and the schools, because I think it's very important that our schools get more into careers, know what we need to do to move this, move jobs in our area. And I'll be quiet on that, but that's my feelings, Kevin.
Well, thank you. I'd also just like to respond. I'm not opposed to an amendment of the form resolution, which Sean has already read, keeping the pressure on GE to hire those laborers and crane operators. Of course, it will mean if we can't find them, I will be back here, hopefully not in an April snowstorm. But, I'm not adverse to keeping the pressure on GE. So create that as an amendment to the resolution and keep the pressure on them to find those laborers. They got to be able to find laborers. As I said before, though, I was already warned that even the crane operators, if they come to the local union hall, may be traveling union members and not residents of this economic development region.
A lot of cranes.
There's not a lot of cranes.
No power cranes? would it be appropriate for us to amend it to just include, that there are 74 positions and to effectively list the titles for whatever's appropriate of those positions and say that is what we are waiving?
That's
Because
right.
I get the point, right? If you don't, right, if there are jobs that are appropriate
Right.
for local
Right.
resources, we don't want to have then said, well, we gave the
Right.
waiver. And to Bob's point, we can at least say to the local unions, these are the positions that locally we don't have sufficient resources and such that they can create training programs or whatever.
And let me just give you a little more background too. For some reason, this contract with GE was negotiated without even the review of our office. An error on our client's part. The person who was responsible for that has moved on to another position now. And we saw the contract for the first time a month ago. And in it was contemplated that work would not begin on this construction project until after the waiver was in place. So obviously this was drawn by people who didn't understand the process. Going back to what we talked about before, that customarily you come in during a project and say, I can't find anyone to do this concrete work or this electrical work or this. And so GE has held up commencement on this. Last week, I drafted the letter to GE ordering them to start work in advance of this waiver, in a sense, moving the liability over to the Terraform side. However, we kept in place subparagraph 5, the special conditions that said you will continue to endeavor to identify local labor for every job category, and that the commencement of work, notwithstanding the original language, is not a waiver of your obligation to find local labor. And that was the commenced work order that we put out to them. Hopefully, I'll have funds in hand later today to pay the town of Hamburg $89,002 for the building permit. So this benefits the town of Hamburg at the moment too.
I have a question. Can you speak to is there a statutory requirement for labor through NYSERDA? In your NYSERDA, is there a rebate process
Well,
through that?
It's not a rebate.
Okay.
It's a contract like almost every solar or wind project has, so that NYSERDA provides you an incentive per megawatt hour. I don't know what it is. I've not reviewed that contract, but it is one of the many state agencies or authorities or departments now in which, as a policy matter, not by statute, but by policy, they say they want prevailing wage level pay. So it's not like the Department of Labor where you go to them and you say, here are my jobs, and they give you a certified labor reimbursement schedule. In this case, we've consulted with the Department of Labor to identify these things and try and categorize them as best we can. But we then have the obligation to represent and provide an audit by an outside CPA that prevailing wage or better was paid for each of the labor, for any labor on this project. Now, obviously, that doesn't define a manager, for example. As the Department of Labor says, it's got to be somebody who picks up a tool and does something with it on site, or drives a crane, or pulls a wire. So, a site manager, you don't pay a prevailing wage to. I don't know what they get paid, but they're not under the prevailing wage. All the rest of these people will be prevailing wage paid.
Thank you.
And then we must report that, I think it's quarterly or it's either monthly or quarterly to NYSERDA as the project commences.
Questions, comments? Cam, you had made a comment to potentially revise the motion.
My question is whether that was appropriate to revise the motion to reference that it's these 74 individuals, it's these positions. I don't know what these are.
So, and I don't have that data either. So to specifically identify the trades or activities of the 74 constructors?
I mean, is that not what we would typically do if we were naming an exemption? We would say, it is this role that cannot be filled.
And I can read them into the record. I have this, and then I can forward to Sean the letter that I got from GE, which named all of them for incorporation in. So you don't have to write them all down now. I can forward the list to you, but for the record, I can read them all right now. Because I have all of these in a table from GE.
Okay,
It'd be appropriate to make it, just a modified resolution contingent on the positions that are necessary to maintain the warranty. I would assume all those being, because, you know, the 9 positions that aren't, like the crane operator and the laborers aren't going to have influence on the warranty, but the other, 55 or 65 positions would be.
and yeah, and that's the motion is worded to allow for the warranty exception to apply for the contract. So if it would please the board to at least understand what the specific tasks are that are being waived, it seems as though the project representative has that information.
And that's why I'm somewhat confused about the question, maybe not simple, but if it's a GE mandated vendor position that's needed to do the project and they can't fulfill it locally, to me, that's what we're approving here. We're not approving that there's 16 laborers and they can get a traveling guy because they don't want to work for local labor or local union hall. But this is just providing for these specialized contractors that are all over the country, which, I mean, I'm sorry, but if you do a big road construction job on the 190, you're gonna have people that do milling from central New York, whatever. This is just standard construction. I'm really confused about why it's necessary to go down this road. If it's needed for the project based off of GE's, the manufacturer of the project, or of the wind turbine, bad on us as a community for not having, and bad on us on the union halls locally, not having people trained to do this work, since it is a job set that's going to be needed in the future.
Yeah, and I do think that speaks to Bob's point. Just in terms of
Just for clarification, a specialized training could be a 2-hour course. And all of a sudden you're certified, as Kevin says, to pull wire on a certain way on a tower. It's a 2-hour course. And we have electricians all over here. If they take a 2-hour course, they're now certified by GE and any, be able to do that job. That's why I'm nervous, because they're only GE vendors, because all of a sudden the vendor just gets a 2-hour course, a 1-hour course, a 1-week course, whatever it is. And all of a sudden they're certified to go in. And Kevin probably knows what I'm talking about, because it's just a certain certification process for their company. And what my concern is, if there's only 3 vendors in the country to do that, the labor force is here, they're just not certified for that particular part of the job. And I want to see us, if we're going to have, we got hundreds of windmills here, guys and ladies. If GE is going to be the replacement ones, we need our people putting them together. That's all I'm looking at here. So that's why I'm kind of really nervous on this one, because the certification could be 2 hours. It could be an hour course, and it's an electrician, a crane operator, whatever it is out there. So to blanket something like this is very dangerous, because they could be coming from all over the country, because there, as Kevin said, there may be only 3 or 4 vendors in the country doing this. So if we open up the door to that, then it makes me nervous. Again, I'm nervous on this. It's up to the board, but that's where I'm coming from on this. Thank you.
So I have this table, and I'll, if I could just take a moment, then I'll read these into you, because there are actually 4 lines that they do not have identified as requiring the labor. A couple of them are cranes, and then there's Actually, they're all crane and labor, but I'll read these in and then I'll provide Sean with this table, so he has it. So, site manager, subcontract manager, EHS manager. I apologize, I do not know some of these acronyms, but they mean. Receiver leader, receiver, installation leader, installation 1, commissioning leader, commissioning 1, LOTO commissioner 2, e-waste commissioner, general laborer, tower tech, wire lead, tower wire tech 2, high voltage technician, engineering tech, lead construction tech 1, repower technician, crane operator, rigger signalman, tooling manager, scrap crane operator, scrap equipment operator. And then in the table, there are numbers for each category. So in the boxes then in the table for local labor waiver, it is not checked for general labor. It is not checked for scrap crane operator, scrap equipment operator, and crane operator. So those are the 4 boxes out of that entire list where they concede that there doesn't have to be a pre-approved person. Some of them, in this table, they do have to be certified riggers, for example. So even the scrap equipment operator, the scrap crane operator, and the crane operator have to be certified riggers. Again, I don't know what that means, whether that's a union certification. I would guess that it is. And none of those positions that I identified need to be certified as wind techs either.
So I believe the idea was there's a motion to amend the previous motion to say limited to the titles that Kevin discussed.
And with those, so as the motion stands, it would all, and maybe I'm losing it here, but so those are the ones that do not fall within the warranty exception. Do you want to specifically state those roles? Is that what you're saying? You'd like the motion amended?
To state the roles that aren't the crane operator.
Okay, to state those warranty accepted roles. Okay. Okay. Would the board be comfortable in receiving that motion?
I think it's on the table, so.
Yeah, well, we'd have to, if we amended it.
Well, did I make a motion?
We had, Cam moved it and Davis seconded
The motion, the original motion?
the original motion.
All right, I'll second the amendment.
Okay. And Cam first, second by.
It's not my old one. I'm just trying to move this along.
Okay. Okay, any further questions? Okay, so motion to approve, I'm gonna do a roll call vote. And we're gonna start with Norma, please.
Aye.
Bob Reynolds,
No.
no. Janet Clark,
No.
Davis Pekulski,
Yes.
Bob Hutchison,
Aye.
Mayor Moses,
Aye.
Chairman Palmer,
Aye.
Cam Hall,
All right.
motion carried. Okay, a reminder for our next meeting.
Can I ask one? Sorry to interrupt, I'm on Zoom. Kevin, could you do we have your information so I can get back to you on my thoughts on this? So you could, at least because you're negotiating with them. So, you know, Janet and I are no on this. At least I'm a certified rigger, Kevin. I was certified by Ford, but you know, that's what I'm saying. I want to know what they're doing here because this is important because we're going to have one more windmills going up.
Yep, understood.
Okay, thank you.
Info can convey it to everybody on the board. I hand out cards here today, but people will just lose them. So yeah, I think we all keep it better by email. So Sean has all my contact info.
Okay,
And, just pass it to everybody, and I will pass along then this list of things. I think what I'll add to it though, to add some flavor to it, is I've got some background on what some of these positions mean. Because as I was explaining with regard to the prevailing wage piece, we spent a lot of time trying to pigeonhole these people into prevailing wage schedules with the New York State Department of Labor, because the name alone doesn't help at all. So I've got some job descriptions that I can provide Sean as well.
okay. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll make that link. Thank you. May 19th, 7:30 a.m. Blaisdell Village Hall is our next meeting. A motion to adjourn the Hamburg IDA agency meeting at 8:44 a.m. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Palmer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you,
Thank you
Kevin.
all very much.
Safe travels.
Thank you. Well, the snow let out.
Yeah.
I realized this morning as I was getting up in the hotel, I don't think I've ever been here on a Sunday.